In this first video on percentages, we're going to have a look at converting between fractions, decimals and percentages, as well as how to calculate the percentage of an amount without a calculator. Okay, so if we have a look here, we've got lots of different percentages. These are like the core ones that you need to know, with the exception of the bottom two. So let's just take a wee walk through and how we calculate them. So the first one we've got is 10%. Percent literally means out of 100. So 10% literally means 10 out of 100. And hopefully you can see that that 10 out of 100 can be simplified to 1 over 10 because they're both in the 10 times table. To go from a percentage to a decimal, to go from there to there, we just divide by 100. So see if we do 10 divided by 100, we're going to get 0.1. Same idea with 20%. 20% is 20 out of 100. Both of those numbers in the 20 times table. So see if we ever wanted to figure out 20%, we could just find a fifth of a number. Once again, to go from a percentage to a decimal, we divide by 100. So we're going to have 0.2. 25%, that literally means 25 out of 100. Both in the 25 times table, that's going to become a quarter. To go from the percent to the decimal, we divide by 100. 0.25. Hopefully you're starting to see a pattern here. I'm going to leave out 33 1/3% just now. We'll look at 50%. You should hopefully know that 50% is half. And if we divide that by 100, we're getting 0.5 or 0.50. Okay, but 0.5 would be fine. 75%, well, that would become 0.75. And if we think about 75% for a little second, 75% is 75 out of 100. But they're both in the 25 times table. So 75% can be calculated using the fraction 3/4. So see if we want to figure out 75% of something, we could just figure out 3/4 of it. 3%, well 3% means 3 out of 100. And we can't divide those. Okay, so that's as simple as it can go. 15 or 3, and if we divide that by 100, we're going to get 0.03. 15%, hopefully you're going to see that's going to become 0.15. 15% means 15 out of 100. But they're both in the 5 times table, so that's the same as 3/20. So hopefully you can see how to get from percentages to decimals, percentages to fractions. If we wanted to go the other way, if we wanted to go from here to here, we would just simply multiply by 100. You'll notice that we've left one blank. 33 1/3%. There is a bit of a clue in the question, and it's the fact that it says a third. So if I just zoom right in here, so 33 1/3% is the fraction 1/3. So if we're ever asked to figure out 33 1/3%, that is a third. As a decimal, if we divide that by 100, we're going to get 0.333333 and so on and so on and so on, and we can just represent it like that here. So to figure out 33 1/3%, that is the same as 1/3. If we wanted to figure out 66 2/3%, that's the same as 2/3. Okay, so we need to be able to interchange between each of these. If we wanted to go from the fraction to the decimal, for example, we would simply just do the numerator divided by the denominator. Okay, for me to go from a decimal to a fraction, I would actually go to the percentage and then from the percentage go to the fraction. Okay, so there's just a wee table. So there are some core percentages that you should be able to figure out. If you want to figure out 10%, you just divide, you find a tenth, you divide by 10. If you want to find 20%, you could just find a fifth. Similarly, to find 50%, you can just divide by 2. 25%, we could just divide by 4. So there's these core fractions that we can work from, where the numerator of each of these is 1. But for example, 30%, if I write this down, 30% is 30 out of 100. And that simplifies to 3/10. So this numerator here is not 1. So we're not just going to divide it by 3 or divide it by 30. There's a different strategy required for this. Okay, so we're now going to have a look at how to calculate the percentage of an amount. Okay, and we're going to do this to start off with initially without a calculator, so non-calc. I'm just going to move this down as well. Okay, so the first one we want to do is we want to calculate 30% of 270, sorry, of 470. 470 is the whole amount, that's 100%. We want to figure out 30% of it. And 30% is not one of those values that we can do straight away. We need to figure it out. We need to build 30%. So how are we going to build 30%? Well, the easiest percent maybe to figure out is to figure out 10%. Because in order to figure out 10%, remember 10% was 1/10. I'll just write that over there. 10% was a tenth. So to figure out 10%, we'll just divide this value by 10. So this divided by 10 is 47. So we now want to go, can we go from 10% to 30%? Yeah, we can. If I know 10%, 3 of them would give me 30%. So see if I multiply 10% by 3, if I multiply 47 by 3, that will give me the value that I'm looking for. And if we just do this multiplication, that's 21, 12 and 2 is 14. So 30% of 470 is 141. We could have done it other ways. We could have figured out 20%, we could have figured out 10%, and then added them together. We could have figured out 50%, then taken away 20%. But my base percentage I like to work with is 10%. Okay, that was number one. Number two, calculate 63% of 526. Oh, right, this is awkward. How are we going to build 63%? There's loads of ways to do it. What would I do? I think I'm going to use 50%. I think I'm going to use 10%. And I'm going to need to figure out 3% as well. Okay, so that's how we're going to build this. This time our total is 526. There might be some decimals involved as well. So in order to work out 50%, oops a daisy, there we go. In order to work out 50%, remember 50% was a half, so we're going to half 526. So 5, 2, 6, so that's what, 2 remainder, 1, 6. So 50% is 263. Okay, so I've technically got my 50%. Okay, I need my 10%. 10%, remember 10% is a tenth. Okay, so if I divide 526 divided by 10, that's going to become 52.6. Okay, so I've got my 10%. Okay, right, I need to figure out my 3%. How are we going to figure out 3%? Well, 3% is the same as 3 lots of 1%. See, if I know 10%, we can figure out 1%, because to go from there to there, we can just divide by 10. So if I know 10%, if I divide it by 10, that's going to give me 1%. So 1% here is going to be 5.26. But remember, I didn't want 1%, I wanted 3%. So in order to get 3%, I'm now going to need to scale up. Okay, so here I'm going to need to times by 3. So I'm going to need to times this value by 3. So I'm going to do 5.26 times 3. Put that decimal point in there. What's that? 18. Carry the 1. 6 plus 1 is 7. I think that's going to become 15.78. So I now know 3%. So in order for us to work out 63%, we are going to need to add together our 50% answer, our 10% answer, and our 3% answer. This is just one way that I've decided to do this question. So we're going to do this at the side. So we've got 263, 52.6, just being careful with my place value here. And then I've got 15.78, 15.78. Just chuck in a couple more zeros there. I'll put in my decimal place. So we're going to have 8, that's 13, so I'll carry my 1. That's 10 plus 1 is 11. 6 and 5 is 11, plus 1 is 12, plus 1 is 13. Okay, so I'm figuring out that 63% is 331.38. Okay, so that one required a wee bit of work because we had to build it And in order to build it, I like to identify at the start, okay, for me, I was going to use 50%, 10%, and 3%. Different ways to do it, but that was the way that I found was most straightforward for me. Okay, so far we've looked at how to calculate a percentage without a calculator and doing some conversions. We're going to look at some calculator work next time. Thanks very much.